Okay, sorry about that first video. I was trying to get everything situated, and then my Chromebook decided to act crazy, so I had to restart my Chromebook, turn my VPN back on, and get everything back up. So now that I've done that, I can say good afternoon, television fans. Big Al here on this Friday, July 11th, 2025, and welcome into episode 9 of television station history. Today we'll be looking at co-Univision flagship WXTV-DT. Which is one of the longest running Spanish language television stations in New York City. And this one I think will be rather quick since there's not really a lot to talk about here. So let's dive into the history of WXTV-DT, but first like, comment, and subscribe to my channel, ring the bell, and get notified every time I go live. And a big shout out to Crazy Cajun for joining us. What's up, Cajun? Okay, here we go. WXTV-DT Channel 41 is a television station licensed to Paterson, New Jersey, serving as the Univision outlet for the New York City area. It is one of two flagship stations of the Spanish language network, the other being WLTV-DT in Miami, Fort Lauderdale. WXTV-DT is owned and operated by Televisa Univision, alongside Newark, New Jersey licensed Unimas outlet WFUT-DT Channel 68, and Smithtown, New Jersey licensed True Crime Network affiliate WFTY-DT Channel 67. The three stations share studios on Frank W. Bird Boulevard in Teaneck, New Jersey, while channels 41 and 67 share transmitter facilities at the top of the Empire State Building in Midtown Manhattan. Yep, chilling here myself, about to get some food here in a little bit. Alright, now the specs on WXTV-DT. Paterson, New Jersey, New York, New York. The station broadcasts on Virtual Channel 41 and RF Digital Channel 26. Their spectrum is shared with WFUT-DT. Their on-air brand is Univision 41 Nueva York. And I'll tell you about the sub-channels later on. The owner is Televisa Univision, and the license is held by WXTV License Partnership GP, and they are a sister station to WFUT-DT Channel 68, which is New York's Unimas station, and WFTY-DT Channel 67, which airs the True Crime Network, and radio stations WADO and WXNY FM. The station signed on initially as WXTV on August 4th, 1968. Their signal was broadcast in analog on UHF Channel 41 from 1968 to 2009, and their digital signal broadcast over RF Channel 40 up until 2018. It was then they switched their digital signal to Channel 30, and that lasted for about a year from 2018 to 2019 before moving to Channel 26 digital. There are two translator stations, W35AB in Philadelphia, PA, and W61AH in Hartford, Connecticut. WXTV is licensed by the FCC. They broadcast with an effective radiated power of 215 kilowatts from their 1,302-foot transmitter tower on the Empire State Building. Their website is www.univision.com/local/nueva-york-WXTV. WXTV's programming is simulcast to Long Island on WFTY's third digital subchannel 67.3 from transmitting facilities in Middle Island, New York. Now we're going to talk about the history. Channel 37 ? In 1962, the Federal Communications Commission received 2 applications for the Channel 37 application or allocation belonging to Paterson, New Jersey. One from the Spanish International Broadcasting System, which at the time only owned 2 stations, and another from Progress Broadcasting, owner of WHOM 1480 AM. Additionally, the use of Channel 37 in Paterson had been contemplated for a potential educational station for northern New Jersey. However, even as the channel had picked up a further 2 interested parties by April 1963, it was not a broadcaster at all that drove the proceedings. The Vermilion River Observatory in Danville, Illinois, a radio astronomy facility, objected to any Channel 37 facility being built. The channel have been allocated to 19 communities across the country because their observatory was designed to detect signals in the 608 to 614 megahertz range, coinciding with Channel 37. Using these frequencies, the observatory could detect specific types of radiation that existed at no other wavelength. The FCC, arguing that there was no other available channel for a station in Paterson, proposed initially to award no Channel 37 station within 600 miles or 970 kilometers of Danville, Illinois, and that all stations would have overnight broadcasts curtailed. An editorial in the New York Times called on the FCC to reserve the channel on a national basis for radio astronomy. In October 1963, the FCC opted to devote Channel 37 entirely to radio astronomy uses until at least 1974 and announced it would allocate another channel to Paterson. The 4 Channel 37 applicants, which were Spanish International Broadcasting Corporation, Progress Broadcasting, Bartel Broadcasters, and Transtel, would have to wait until the FCC assigned another channel to Paterson. Originally, 66 was proposed, but by 1965, Channel 41 had instead been assigned. Transtel, which proposed the station airing programming for the tri-state area's Spanish-speaking and black communities, came out the winner in a settlement that also saw Bartel drop out and Spanish International get the option to acquire 50% of the permit. This option would be exercised in 1967. Initially planned to broadcast from the Empire State Building, construction was sped up when the FCC allowed the station, taking the call letters WXTV, to move its transmitter to the city's service building until the World Trade Center was completed, becoming the first television station to use the mast and first broadcast station since 1950. The station went on the air on August 4th, 1968 from studios at 641 Main Street in Paterson, a property leased from former Mayor Frank X. Graves, Jr. The station focused on filmed programs from Mexico and Puerto Rico at the outset, though it also aired local news and some English-language programming, primarily public affairs material for North Jersey, including a news wrap-up and election debates. Additionally, because the electricity supply to the city's service building meant the transmitter could only be powered when the air conditioning and elevator systems were off, Channel 41 could only broadcast at first in the evenings. Tower walls. For several years, the location of the transmitter was a hot button issue. Rene Anselmo, one of the founders of the Spanish International Network, which would be the forefront or the forerunner to today's Univision, claimed that when WXTV initially inquired as to space at the Empire State Building, it was told it would have to sign a 20-year lease because all of the other stations were scheduled to move to the World Trade Center. It opted to wait at the city's service building. However, when the center neared completion, it began causing reception issues for WXTV, particularly because the city's service transmitter was closer to the towers than the other stations at the Empire State Building. The station blamed the Port of New York Authority for poor reception and implored viewers to complain to Austin Tobin. The Port Authority complained that the intention, of Channel 41's actions was to try to move its transmitter to the World Trade Center. Claiming that the Port Authority was stalling on prior agreements to move the stations to the World Trade Center, WXTV ran a full-page advertisement in the New York Daily News imploring viewers to wake up and declaring that the Port Authority is killing your TV reception and doesn't give a damn. It also threatened to sue the Port Authority. Anselmo wrote to FCC Commissioner Robert E. Lee and the governors of New York and New Jersey asking for their intercession. The station was successful in getting FCC approval to operate from the World Trade Center in 1974, but delays continued for years. In April of 1980, the Port Authority finally reached an agreement to allow WXTV and its direct competitor, WNJU-TV, whose license is also held in the state of New Jersey, to operate from its antenna site on the North Tower. However, further pushbacks by the Port Authority over radiation concerns for visitors to the South Tower's 107th story observation deck led Anselmo to start a hunger strike in an RV parked at the base of the towers in May 1980. Finally, in June, an agreement was approved to allow WXTV and WNJU to broadcast from the North Tower. On to growth. In 1978, after 10 years based in its city of license of Paterson, New Jersey, WXTV announced it would move its studios to Secaucus, New Jersey, where they were consolidated with the station's Manhattan advertising offices. The move would save money and pay for the relocation of the transmitter to the World Trade Center. Meanwhile, as SIN, or the Spanish International Network, became a pioneer in the use of television translators to extend its reach, WXTV soon began to spread outside of the New York City area. On May 3, 1980, a Channel 35 translator went on the air in Philadelphia, which was followed by a second translator on Channel 61 for Hartford, Connecticut the next month. WXTV was not the only Spanish-language TV station for the New York market. WNJU Channel 47 was already on the air, and the two began a healthy competition for viewers. However, the mix of programs on SIN and Univision which emphasized Mexican novellas, sometimes hurt WXTV in a market where more Dominicans, Puerto Ricans, and Cubans. This allowed WNJU to beat WXTV at times. In the late 1990s, WXTV made substantial strides in the general market ratings. In February 1999, it topped WWOR-TV Channel 9 in total day ratings, a historic first in New York. Despite this, it had just $44 million in advertising revenue compared to the $155 million for Channel 9. The September 11, 2001 terror attacks on the World Trade Center did not affect WXTV's over-the-air signal, as WXTV's transmitter is housed at the Empire State Building. The station had filed in 1989 to return there from the World Trade Center and completed the move in 1992. WXTV and WCBS-TV Channel 2, which had a full-powered backup transmitter at the Empire State Building, were the only major New York City stations whose over-the-air signals were not disrupted. For a time, until the other English stations could re-establish emergency transmission bases at the Empire State Building or the Armstrong Tower, Channel 41's anchors reported in both languages for viewers without pay access to local English stations. The station had also done so when the towers were bombed in 1993. Newscasts. Local news began with the station originally in the form of half-hour newscasts at 7 and 11 p.m., which were later switched to 6 and 11. From 1981 to 1985, Enrique Gratas was WXTV's news director. In 1999, an hour-long morning newscast was added to the station's evening news broadcast, the first Spanish-language morning news program in the New York market. And hello to Anna and Polar Bear Chad. What's going on, guys? In addition to the newscasts, the station produced news updates for Altus USA's News 12 networks on weekdays. Since the late 1990s, as the Hispanic population in New York has grown, WXTV's ratings have grown to become competitive with the market's English language stations. Channel 41 won the 2008 sweeps period and also became the first Spanish language television station to win all 3 evening slots. Local news at 6 and 11, and national news at 6:30. Channel 41's 6 p.m. newscast was also number 1 among the 25 to 54 demographic, followed by channels 7 to 47, 5, and 4. WXTV's 6 p.m. news ended the 2011 calendar year as the number 1 newscast in that time slot in the entire United States in any language among adults 18 to 49. In 2020, the late newscast Solo a las 11, which translates in English to Only at 11, was retooled with an in-depth format. Notable current on-air staff at WXTV include Adriana Vargas, weeknight anchor, and Rafael Bello, weekday meteorologist and entertainment anchor. Former on-air staff at Channel 41 include Maria Celeste Areras, Daisy Fuentes, Denise Aller, and Rafael Pineda, who retired from the station in 2013. Alright, on to the sub-channels as we look at technical information. Both channels 41 and 68 share the same spectrum. So we'll look at channel 41's television. We'll look at channel 41's signals first. Of course, 41.1, which is in 720p HD, is Univision. 41.2 and 41.3 both broadcast and in 480i HD, and all three channels have a 16:9 aspect ratio. Bounce TV, which is a multicast channel aimed at African Americans, that's on 41.2, and the Spanish religious network Nuestra Vision is on 41.3. Also broadcast on channel 41 spectrum is a couple of the sub-channels from WPIX. Antenna TV on 11.2 and Rewind TV on 11.4, both from WPIX. And both channels also broadcast with MPEG-4 video. As for the offerings from channel 68, 68.1 in 720p HD and a 16:9 aspect ratio is Unimas, which is Univision's sister station. On 68.2 at 480i HD and a 16:9 aspect ratio is the True Crime Network, which is also seen on WFTY. And on 68.3 with 480i HD and a 4.3 and a 4:3 aspect ratio is Game Show Central. This is a game show channel that has just launched across the country on local television. WXTV ended regular programming on its analog signal over UHF channel 41 on June 12, 2009 as part of the federally mandated transition from analog to digital television. The station's digital signal remained on its pre-transition UHF channel 40 using virtual channel 41. In the incentive auction, WXTV's spectrum was sold for $198,965,211, and the station's license was consolidated onto one channel with co-owned WFUT. And that was a pretty quick one, as I said before, as that was the history of WXTV channel 41. Alright, coming up in episode 10, we'll be taking a look at WXTV's rival station, WNJU, which is a Code Telemundo flagship, and we'll be talking about that station in our next episode. For now, like, comment, and subscribe to my channel, ring the bell, and get notified every time I go live. What's up, Joey? How you doing? Alright, Big Al signing off. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time for episode 10 of Television Station History. Peace out.